Hey everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the Minigolf project. Just like last week, we're going to start out this week with making the third hole of our golf course. This time, I've gone over most of the stuff with you, so I'm really not going to point much out. Our goal here is, of course, to just get that third hole created. But before I get into the fast forwarding stuff, I'll get you guys started. So we're going to go back into our prefabs folder, find that course folder, and pick whatever block you're going to start with. I'm a really big fan of starting with the end block because it's surrounded on all sides by walls. And we're going to go ahead and just place that around where we want the hole to start. Don't worry about if you need to rotate it or anything just yet. Once you got that starting block in our scene, we're going to right click on that block in the hierarchy and hit create empty. That's going to create a child game object right on top of where our first block is located. We're going to rename that game object to hole 3 this time because we're on our third hole. And then we're going to place our first game object, our first prefab, right there on the hole 3 object. So we're going to make it a child of hole 3. Once we've got that set as a child of hole 3, what we want to do is grab our start positions. So we're going to go back to hole 2, expand that, and press Control C or Command C while selecting the starting positions game object. And we're going to right click on hole 3 and select paste as child. And that's going to paste it right in there as a child already. If we've got it selected and we tap that W key, we should see that gizmo located somewhere. Oh, it looks like it was way off in space for some reason. If this happens to you and you can't find it, just go ahead and set the X, Y, and Z component of the, or property of the transform component position. Set those all to 0, and that's going to put it right on top of our new thing. And then we got to make sure that we lift it up in the air because it needs to be a little bit above the ground for our starting positions there. So once our starting positions are set up, that's all the setup parts that are required, of course, other than our hole that we need to add at the end of our course. So from here, I'm just going to fast forward to the end of my hole. Make sure that you lay it out in a way that makes sense. You're keeping in mind that this should be the third easiest hole. We're trying to get harder as we move towards hole 9. And of course, also make sure that we're decorating around our hole after the hole is finished. So one thing that may happen as you are decorating your level is, like in this case, I have this staircase object that I would like to wrap around to the left, but the staircase only goes up to the right, and there's actually no other options that have this type of staircase. So one thing that's kind of neat about Unity is that we can actually flip this object right here as it is. To do that, what we do is we jump up to our transform component with this object selected, and this scale option over here, there's this X, Y, and Z scale. If you look at the the gizmo for the movement down here, we see that the blue arrow is the one that's going across this thing. So we want this blue arrow to be facing the other direction, essentially, or the object to flip as though it were. So what we can do is actually just set the Z scale to -1. And when we do that, that actually flips the object around backwards. And this works great for flipping objects if we need them to be flipped. Although keep in mind that this does not work if the object we want to flip has a collider on it. So these objects don't have colliders, so we don't need to worry about any issues with flipping them. It's going to flip over just fine for us. So we can make use of that to flip objects as we see fit. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with how my hole is laid out here. I've got this nice little downhill contraption, and the trees and stuff decorating, and the nice little staircase upwards. One thing that I would note, and if you didn't make it to this point in the video, you may miss this, but yeah, this is kind of a good thing to know, is if we're going downhill, if our ball is intended to roll down something, it can be pretty difficult to get these edges to line up properly. So my advice whenever you want the ball to go downhill is you basically want to put the ramp, the part lower than the previous part. You want that to be a little bit below the edge. What this will end up meaning is that you can't hit the ball back up to the top, but that's okay, because what this will prevent is your ball hitting the top of the ramp and not being able to roll down. So if we put our ramp just a little bit below the top edge of the previous piece of the ramp, same thing here, it's a little bit below that. And again here as well, you'll see, it's just a little drop off at each point. And yes, you won't be able to go back up, but that means you'll have a smooth transition rolling down the course. But anyways, once you've got your hole set up and you're happy with the way it looks, go ahead and save your scene. And we're ready to move on into some of the more technical and coding heavy steps. Although, of course, don't make the mistake I was about to make and forget to put your decorations in our decorations game object. So let me do that very quickly. There we go. Now I've got everything sorted out nicely, so we don't have to worry about those decorations making a mess of our scene.